Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at SeatGeek, the best and easiest to use ticket platform out there. They take the confusion out of buying tickets using a 0 to 10 scoring system and a green is good, red is bad color rating system so you and your loved ones get the best deal possible. So whether it's going to see our beloved Redlegs at Great American Ballpark, the Bengals over at Paycor, FC Cincinnati, one of the area college teams, or pretty much anything in between, use promo code Riverfront at checkout and receive $20 off your first order. Click the link in the show notes to download the app and get started. That's Riverfront, one word, for $20 off.
What is up, everybody? How are we doing this lovely, I guess it's Wednesday. We'll drop this in your feeds Wednesday evening. Welcome to the jungle. I am your host, Joe Farsing. Alongside me, Parker Fields. Parker, what's up, buddy?
I said it's Thursday, Joe.
It is Thursday. Jesus. Wow.
I'm doing pretty good, though. I noticed that when you said that, I was like, this... I'm doing pretty good. Excited to talk Bengals draft talk.
Just got back from lunch and had I've sent Parker a picture, had an espresso martini. I only had one, I promise. Obviously, I know what day it is. It's Thursday. It is April 18th. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft. I'm excited. A lot to get into. Before we get going here first, say we are presented by the Riverfront. We're also proud to be part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Find us on youtube.com, RiverfrontCincy, RiverfrontCincy.com. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com, RiverfrontCincy. Subscribe to for as low as $2 a month. You can get access to Patreon exclusives like hopping on our ever-exciting Slack channel. Just started a food thread, which a lot of us are, we'll say, beefy boys, as Nate Dotson likes to put it. We like to eat, and so we share our favorite, what we're eating for dinner or cool restaurants or anything like that, beverages as well. Adult or child beverages, depending on your preference, but whatever. It's kind of like our own private Twitter without all of the omnipresent OnlyFans jumping in with their hearts in bio, if you shall we say so.
Hearts in bio.
First things first. Little news on T. Higgins. Bengals did start their offseason program this week. He said he's expecting to be part of the team. We know that. He's not going to get traded. Bengals don't trade anybody unless they feel like they have to. Duke Tobin said it last year. They're not in the business of making other teams better, and trading away one of the top 30 wide receivers in the game to another team is definitely making another team better. What do you expect there to be any cause for any issues with T this year, or at least before camp?
No, because I think T. Higgins is like one of the most like nice guys in the league. Like everything I see, I met him. He came to my dad's work at Cincinnati Public Schools. He came to my dad's work, and I met him up there at the board office, and like he was the nicest guy ever. Like he doesn't seem like a prima donna receiver whatsoever. Also, if you think about it, he's been content being the number 2 receiver in Cincinnati. So I don't think he has some massive ego and stuff. I don't see problems with him in terms of like stuff like that. I think he'll hold out obviously for a little bit, but nothing else besides that.
Yeah, I mean, he understands it's a business. This isn't a Bengals don't want him, Bengals, adversarial thing. It's he wants to get paid what he feels he's worth. And the Bengals have made their opinion known on what they place their financial value on him on, and he'll play out this year, and then we'll deal with next year.
Also, for him, I bet you there's a much higher chance for his value will go up after this season because he didn't have a good year last year for his standards.
His struggle is staying on the field.
Yeah.
He puts up numbers when he's there, but he has struggled to stay on the field. He hasn't been on for all 16 games. I think he's been on the field for about.
He played all 16 games last season, 2 years ago.
Yeah, in 2022, but he missed games in 2020, missed games in 2021, missed a handful of games this past year. Um, your best ability is availability. You can be the best player. I mean, but if you can't get on the field, it's going to hurt your value. Like teams are going to want you, but they're not going to invest, X amount of dollar amount. Like you look like Devontae Smith got his new contract. Um, a healthy T. Higgins should expect to top that, but
Yeah.
he's not proven to be a consistently healthy guy. So Bengals aren't going to pay above that. So, and I understand, like, there's no bad side in this. It's Bengals have financial considerations. They're happy tying up a large chunk of their payroll at quarterback and receivers, but they have you valued at this. And if you're asking for more than that, well, they're not going to go for that. That's
Yeah.
that,
And here, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, you're good.
Like in last year, his numbers weren't great. Like he had the worst season of his career, truthfully, in terms of his numbers and everything like that. He barely caught over 50% of his balls like thrown at him. But then he has a game like that Vikings game, and you're like, God, this guy is so talented. Like that play he made. I don't know if like another receiver in the NFL could have made that play. Truthfully,
I don't think so. It has that upper body
maybe
strength to catch it.
Maybe DK Metcalf, like somebody like that, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's a short list to have that size and strength, and you've got to have crazy long arms to be able to reach across the end zone from where he was. I mean, he was like a 5 or something, or maybe not the 5. He doesn't have 15-foot long arms, but long enough to where like anybody else, and it's coming up at the 1 or the 2 yard line. So
that play reminded me so much of AJ Green. That play
Yeah.
right there, I was like, that was an AJ Green play right there.
yeah, it's a shame that Bengals couldn't have prime AJ Green play with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean,
Yeah.
T got to play with towards the end of his career. I mean, he was still a useful receiver in 2020, but he wasn't 2012,
Yeah,
2013 AJ Green.
He went to the
Cardinals.
who was he on? The Cardinals, and he had a really good season in 2021.
Yeah.
2022, he it was time
Bad.
to retire.
He
But
lost.
2021, he was still like almost 1,000-yard receiver, I believe. I think he was in
Yeah.
800 or 900 yards.
Yeah, he's one of the guys where if injuries hadn't affected his career, he would have been a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Crazy ability, just the smoothest. Someone at his size and strength to be that smooth of a route runner, like it's not a lot of guys that have that ability. So
No, 100%. And if like he was definitely on track to be in the Hall of Fame his first like 6 years or so, and then he just didn't do much after that.
yeah, he and Julio Jones were 1A, 1B. I mean, I think Julio was slightly ahead of him up to that point, but again, then the injuries hit, and then Julio's still playing. He's probably a no doubter Hall of Fame, I think.
Oh,
And,
Julio.
and he's still,
Julio.
but, I mean, hurt and not, and probably first ballot. So, oh well, they're not. Neither of them are Bengals anymore, so we're not here to talk about them. What we are here to talk about is the draft. Draft is 1 week away from today, on the 25th. Bengals pick 18th. We'll be live. Draft starts at 8:00. We'll be live probably about 9:00, taking you up to the Bengals pick. What will happen is the Bengals will make a trade and pick before we go on air, or they'll trade out of the first round, and we'll just be waiting and waiting and waiting. Then all of a sudden it's midnight, and Bengals trade to the pick 33, and we'll see them tomorrow afternoon.
We'll be back live tomorrow.
Right. You guys will be live. I will be out of town. I might jump on live just for the hell of it, just to mess with you guys, because I'll probably have a couple drinks with me at that time, but still. Bengals draft needs. And this is my list. I don't know where you feel on this, but right tackle, again, we have a right tackle with Trent Brown. He's not a long-term fit. I mean, I think it can be expected he's going to provide solid right tackle work. Maybe they can extend him or extend him for another year or so. He's not young. They need somebody there for the long term. Whether or not we trust the Bengals to actually draft and develop a tackle, history isn't kind. Yeah, history isn't kind at all at that, but we shall see. Defensive interior, obviously they lost DJ Reader. They brought in Sheldon Rankins. I think pass rushing defensive tackle, they'll be solid for the next year, but the guys are older. BJ Hill, Rankins are not young guys. They need some fresh depth. They're not going to get a DJ Reader replacement in this draft. One doesn't exist in probably the entire NFL that has his ability of strength and quickness for someone his size. you can bet they're probably going to make a couple attacks at that position in the draft. Wide receiver, I've got that at third. They need a wide receiver 3 this year with Tyler Boyd. They don't have a slot receiver. And probably wide receiver 2 for next year with T. Higgins most likely gone. I don't see a way that he's extended, so they need a long-term solution there. Tight end, they've been content to just kicking the can down the road year after year after year. If Joe Burrow wanted a quality is the wrong word, but a proven commodity at tight end, or valued having a strong receiver at tight end, Bengals would have drafted one, or they would have brought in someone besides Mike Gesicki or Hayden Hurst last year. That being said, they do need them because the guys they have are older: Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson, and Gesicki, and they're on shorter term deals.
Mhm.
Edge, you can put edge down every year for every team. You cannot have enough pass rushers. Trey Hendrickson is top 5, top 10 in his, in the NFL rushing the passer. Not a ton out of the other side. Miles Murphy, I'm high on him. I think he's going to have a really good career. Last year was expected to be kind of a slow year for him, but again, you could have Miles Garrett, you could have JJ or TJ Watt on the other end. You're still going to draft edge rushers. You're still going to bring those guys in because you want to bring them in waves. Salt away a lead in the fourth quarter. Just keep running the quarterback around in the pocket.
Exactly.
Running back, Bengals have 3. They're going to need someone who's going to push Travion Williams for the last special team spot, and someone, again, I don't know what the split's going to be this year. In carries, 40-40-20, 50-50, whatever, but they're going to bring someone else in. They usually have 4 guys in the room. I don't think Chris Evans makes it onto the roster this year. We shall see, but expect them to draft at least one. Interior offensive line. This one, I don't think people talk enough about the interior offensive line. They look at the last handful of games of Cordell Volson and oh, he figured it out. I don't think he did. He's an older, he was an older prospect coming in. He wasn't good as a rookie. He was useful last year as a second-year player, but he's not great. You want better than not great at your offensive line. Ted Karras is older. He's in the last year of his contract. He's average to above average, probably 12, 15 range of centers in the NFL. And he's fine, but again, he's getting older. You can't last year on his contract. Don't know what they plan on doing after that. Then Oxcap on the right side, he's signed through 25, but again, he's average, middle of the pack, fine, but ideally you want someone better than fine holding that spot down, especially a team as pass heavy as the Bengals. You want guys that are stout in pass protection. Last, and I'm probably underselling this one a lot, is cornerback. There's always the chance the Bengals take a tight end, always the Bengals take a cornerback in the first round. They like doing that. I don't think they're going to do that this year. They don't have a cornerback 3, or maybe they don't have cornerback 2. I don't know what they think of DJ Turner coming into this year. Obviously, Cam Taylor-Britt is their number 1, and I think he's going to continue ascending to be a shutdown cornerback this year. Again, it's not out of the realm possibility that they draft one either in the first round or early on day 2. They like drafting the second round cornerbacks. It turned out well, but again, that's another spot. You can never have enough cornerbacks.
I'm just thinking real quick, off the top of my head, we've drafted so many corners in the first or second round, the last 10 years, and it's worked. These guys ended up being really good, solid players. So, it's definitely worked. It's definitely a strength of ours drafting. So that's probably why they go to that well a lot, because we draft offensive linemen, they don't turn out good. We draft corners, they turn out good. So that's probably why they keep going down that well.
That's the 2 spots the Bengals can be confident in drafting over the course of their entire history, is defensive backfield and wide receiver. John Ross is probably the only high draft pick, first, second, third round receiver that didn't make I don't want to say huge impact, but you don't put that high on everyone, but that didn't become an impact player for the Bengals at wide receiver over the past 30 years. To Eddie Brown in '85 coming out of Miami, and he was a solid receiver in the first round. But
Ross even had a decent year though in 2019 before he got hurt. He was actually having a solid year. Like he was on pace for 1,000 yards, I believe, that year, which is just absurd to think about looking back on it. But like I do think injuries were a big part of the reason he didn't pan out at all.
Yeah,
Like I think there would have been a spot for him for sure if because he was so damn fast. Like some of the plays he made, nuts.
I think the problem with John Ross was his head coach. Marvin had zero. First, Marvin didn't play rookies much at all.
Yeah,
Um, Absolutely buried them, and if they made a mistake, they got buried even more. And he just got put with the wrong head coach. He didn't have problems with his hands in college. Like he had pretty. I mean, he wasn't like the most sticky handed receiver ever coming out of Washington, but having drops, dropping the ball, or was never an issue with him. Then all of a sudden, he starts struggling with his hands, and something happened, and I think he just lost confidence and just ended up with the wrong coach for someone who's having confidence issues, is having, I don't want to say mental health issues. I don't want to project that onto someone else. Who knows? But someone that was struggling with the mental aspect of the game, just the wrong coach for it. I think if he would have come in under Zach Taylor, he would have had a uh, much better. I'll say conclusion to his career, because ideally he'd still be playing today, but
yeah.
he'd have a much better chance. I mean, health is one thing. I mean, if you can't stay on the field, you can't stay on the field. But it's not as if he was missing year after year after year. He was just constantly dinged up, and he'd at least be able to be on the field. So
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked. Yeah, 500 yards in 8 games in 2019.
yeah, he had that humongous breakout game
Seattle.
Seattle, first week of the season.
Yeah, I
So I mean,
remember that.
second, as of now, the second fastest receiver ever, or the second fastest player at the combine, just passed by Xavier Worthy this past year. So I mean, can't teach speed, and
No.
being able to find a way to get that guy open, being able to find a way to scheme that guy, that was missed opportunity. And again, that's part of the player, part of the organization, but you move on. So this week we are talking about offensive prospects. Next week we'll talk about defense prospects before our live show on the draft. We're leaving out guys that aren't going to be around, so I'm not going to waste any time talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, or Joe Alt, or anybody like that. These guys that aren't going to be around when the Bengals pick. Even if the Bengals trade up, which is highly unlikely, they're not trading up that high in the first round to get the inside the top inside the top 10. So first off, we will hit tackles. I have the pronunciation here on my notes. Talisa Fuaga, uh, out of Oregon State, listed as an offensive tackle. A lot of conversation whether he's a guard or a tackle. He's someone that I think they could draft today, put him in as a guard, put him inside for a year, let him develop, and then move out to the outside after this year, after Trent Brown leaves. What are your thoughts on him? Where are you on drafting someone that's, I don't want to say not a surefire offensive tackle, because everyone seems to believe that he's, that
Kind
he's
of
a
like a hybrid.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather draft a more traditional offensive tackle. Like if we're going with this guy, like as an early round, like a first round pick and stuff like that, I would much rather draft a surefire, gonna be an offensive tackle, because that's just more of a position of need. It's just more. I think tackles are a little bit more important than guards. So I don't know, but he's huge.
Yep.
He's a huge guy. He's a huge guy. He's got good measurables. So I do like him a lot as a prospect. I was doing some research on him. I like him a lot as a prospect. I think he'd fit our scheme and stuff like that. It's just he's got to slide a tackle, and I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. His physical side absolutely fits the profile of what the Bengals are looking for.
Yeah,
6'6", 330. He'd actually be one of the shorter tackles on the roster. But um, again, if he's athletic enough to play both sides, like that's a good fit. But I don't know. It's whether you'd rather have a master or a jack of all trades, or the master of one. Um, yeah, I think I'd rather have a guy who's more of absolute step in day one. Let there be a training camp battle between him and Trent Brown to take that spot. In worst case, Trent Brown's your swing tackle, and you're feeling really, really damn good about your offensive line. At least the tackles for 2024. Next on is I got him backwards on the list here. Troy Fautanu. Yeah, okay.
The pronunciation.
There are a lot of Pacific Islander names that it's a struggle, and you're looking at I'm going a lot off of Pro Football Focus's list, and all the guys at the top are all have Pacific Islander names, which just are difficult for idiot Americans like me to try to pronounce.
Me
And
too.
again,
I'm gonna call him Troy.
Yeah,
Troy.
Troy from UW. I'm picking. I'm pulling their pronunciation guides off of the media guides they provide, and it's. I'm trying. Troy. I don't know if you're watching this. I'd love it if you did. I doubt it, but I apologize. I'm trying, guys. He's. I don't want to say only because this is a massive human being. Only 6'4", 317, like kind of a smaller guy. Not
that's
someone
definitely
who,
smaller.
yeah. I mean, not even the Bengals who have absolute massive, gigantic offensive tackles in the Brown fellows, but just for a tackle itself, like 6'4" is pretty short for an offensive tackle. Like that's kind of center sized. Again, the guy's a great technician. He's going to be a really good player. I don't know how much of a fit he is. And we'll go in this with the next guy, Olu Fashanu. Damn it.
These names are
The guy from Penn State. These guys are very similar sized. They're both like 6'4", 6'5", 310, 320 in that range. Great technicians, and they're going to be probably good players for a long time. I just don't think they're on the Bengals on the Bengals radar because of their smaller-ish stature. They like guys that have incredibly long reaches. You want guy because you've got Myles Garrett, who's an absolute physical freak with 85-foot long arms. You want those guys with a long reach to be able to try to run him around the arc coming off the edge.
Yeah, 100%.
Where are you on these guys?
I'm kind of with you. I don't want to draft a smaller offensive tackle, especially with the early pick. I just don't think it really fits our scheme or what we're trying to do. Because I mean, you look at the monsters that we've been signing recently.
Yeah,
And I just don't really think it fits what we're trying to do there. And then also, like you said, like it does give you limitations when blocking for sure, 100%. Like if you're like 6'4", obviously a super tall human being, but when it comes to offensive tackles, that is on the smaller side. Weight's a little bit on the decently smaller side too. So you'd want a little bit bigger of a tackle, in my opinion.
yeah, they like guys that have a really strong anchor, and guys that traditionally have a strong anchor, guys that are beefier, guys that are going to be able to take the bull rush from someone out. Bengals have had plenty of beefy offensive tackles that have absolutely just gotten bull rushed into oblivion and beaten around the edge every which way. I mean, we remember the totally spaced them out Jackson Carmen experience,
Yeah.
and so many just crappy offensive tackles. I've tried to block them all out of memory. Deontay Smith never did anything. Collins, good lord. John Jerry, Cordell, Cordy Glenn. They
Cordy
traded
Glenn, I
prospects for
forgot
Cordy
about
Glenn.
him.
Like they that was supposedly a great move when they made that, and just
Yeah.
next two guys on the list are similar sizes. Like these are guys that I think the Bengals are absolutely going to look at. J.C. Latham and Amarius Mims. Latham from Alabama, Mims from Georgia. Bengals love guys coming from winning programs. Alabama and Georgia, they don't come any more winning.
Yeah, we do draft a lot of Alabama and Georgia guys. We really do.
And especially under Zach Taylor, they like guys who have experienced winning. They like guys that are leaders, and they like guys that don't lose and don't like how it feels to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get plenty of talented players off of programs that aren't very good. I mean, you can get a good player off Northwestern, but you want someone who isn't used to losing. You don't want them to like or to be comfortable with the feeling of losing.
Yeah.
Physical side, J.C. Latham, 6'6", 335. Marius Mims, 6'7", 340. Those are guys right up the alley. They're just a similar build, just a small bit shorter than Orlando and Trent Brown. Mims, his only drawback, and drawback's not even the right word, but he doesn't have many snaps. He only really started 1 year, so he'd definitely benefit from sitting a year behind Trent Brown. Latham, I think, would be more likely to be able to step in and play day one if need be. But either one of these, I would be completely confident with one of these two guys coming in day one. And, they're being the guy at 18, if that's who they go, I'd be happy with either of those two guys.
I love Latham as a prospect, but I don't think he's going to be available, honestly, at 18.
Probably not.
I
Probably
think he's going to be gone. He's already visited, I think, with 4 teams in the top 10. So, like, I just don't see him being available, which sucks because I really like him as a prospect. So, backup plan Mims for me if he's available, because Latham, I just don't see a way that he's available at 18 unless we trade up, obviously. But
It's funny because I've seen a lot of spots where he's gone in like the top dozen or so. PFF has their 2-round mock pick. He's actually goes at 26.
yeah, that's
He's,
crazy.
Yeah,
That's the weird part about the
for the
NFL draft.
Buccaneers.
The NFL draft is so much more random than like the NBA draft. Like the NBA draft, like you're likely going close to where you're mocked. NFL draft, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean teams. I mean, especially there's so many different variables or scheme fits. I mean, NBA, especially if you're picking to the top of the lottery in the NBA, you're picking the consensus guy and you're changing your scheme to fit that guy.
Yeah.
You like if you're the Spurs, I don't care what offense you're running. You're drafting Victor Wembanyama. You're building that team around that guy's strengths.
Oh, 100%.
NFL, you're not doing that unless it's a quarterback.
Yeah.
So it's you'll see guys that even in the first round they go 10, 15 spots after they thought, not because there's flaws in their games or there's warts, but just what they what they excel at or what their strengths are doesn't fit a certain team or team needs a specific spot. Team needs a cornerback. Well, they might offensive lineman might be 5 spots higher than the cornerback on their big board, but they're going to get that cornerback or they're going to get that wide receiver. So
yeah.
But again, this is a weird draft. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks going. There's going to be a lot of wide receivers going. I don't think there's a chance. I think Latham will be off the board early, but I think there's a chance that there'll be several guys when the Bengals come up to 18, and they might even trade back. I think if there's several guys that they like, they love doing that, which I would be. I don't know if they need that because they already have 10 picks, but maybe package that and move up in like the second round or something like that. So we'll see. Next spot that I have is wide receiver. Again, this is one I've seen some mock drafts out there. The Bengals picking a wide receiver in round 1. I don't think that's going to happen. The consensus guys are going to be gone. Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, those guys will be off the board in the top 7, 8, 9, 10 picks. Next handful of guys, Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell, those are guys that will probably be on the board when the Bengals pick. I think they're more later first round picks, maybe top second round picks. And the other guys on our board, and we'll get into them, are later, our second round picks and even later than that. But Brian Thomas, LSU. Bengals love their LSU Tigers. Ideal size speed combo. This guy's 6'3", 4.330. Like that's a burner. That's almost T. Higgins size, but with much better speed. I think Chase ran a 4.4, or around a 4.4. So this guy's faster than straight line speed than Jamar Chase. He would. I don't want to say I'd be upset if they picked the receiver. I don't know that they need a receiver that high. I think that there are positions of need, but he's a guy that I would be okay with if they did pick him. Were you?
Yeah, I'm kind of, if they draft a receiver, I want them to draft Brian Thomas, like in the first round, obviously, because they're gonna draft a receiver in all likelihood at some point. But if they go receiver first round, then that's who I want them to go with. He's a physical freak. He put up huge numbers in college. I am big on that a little bit because I don't like you don't have to put the biggest numbers up possible, but like strictly off potential, like horrible numbers in college, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I know it works sometimes. Like DK Metcalf didn't do that much in college, but he was a third round pick. He wasn't a first round pick.
Right.
I don't like first round picks like that, is what I'm saying. And he had a really good season this year at LSU, so he's proven. He's a big guy. He's fast. I wouldn't mind that pick whatsoever at 18.
Yeah. Next guy on the list again.
It's definitely the fun pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Same story as Brian Thomas. Adonai Mitchell, very similar size and speed as Thomas. Ran a 4.3. I think he's 6'3" as well. Had another productive season. For some weird reason, I always look at Texas prospects with a bit of a jaundiced eye. I don't know why. I don't know the last Bengal that was a
Cedric Benson. Like I'm trying to think who
But
was
I
from
mean, that
Texas.
was free
That's
agent
forever
anyway.
ago.
I mean, Joe Osai was
Yeah.
is still a question mark what he is. I can't think of the last Texas, last Longhorn that actually did anything for the Bengals, and that doesn't mean anything for anything. But you
It's
try to look
just
at trends. I mean, they had Jordan Shipley,
yeah,
right?
we
I mean,
did.
outside of getting almost getting decapitated by Brown safety, I can't remember who it was. Got absolutely just cheap shotted in the head in the end zone on a play.
Forgot we had Jordan Shipley.
Yeah, a, a lot of people forgot that the Bengals had Jordan Shipley.
Yeah. He was a dog in college though.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he and Colt McCoy. I mean, those guys. I mean, they were lifelong buddy. They had like that unspoken
Yeah.
like ESP connection that knew what the other one was going to do, especially when a play broke down. So
Yeah. If McCoy or if Shipley was drafted to the Browns with McCoy, what would have happened?
yeah, exactly.
Biggest what if.
That could have cut about 20 names off of the off the guy with the brown jersey with the 80 quarterback names.
Yeah.
Now we're getting the guys that are a little more likely with the Bengals where they're going to pick. Lad McConkey looks like a day one starter in the slot. He's fast, 4.39, great acceleration. I mean, he gets up to speed quick. Like that's the guy that you want catching quick slants and stuff like that. Good hands, runs good routes. Needs to add muscle. Translate from the NFL game to or college game to the NFL game. He's kind of Charlie Jones, but a plus version of Charlie Jones. He's not as old as
Yeah.
Charlie Jones. That was kind of the knock on Chuck Sizzle. Is he was an older prospect, so how much progression are you actually do you expect from him? But I think he'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I like him, but like you mentioned, like a $185 is not gonna cut it.
Yeah, at 6 foot. So I mean, it's not as if he's
not
like
like
5'8".
it's not like he's 5'8". He's 6 foot tall. So a $185, that's not gonna cut it. He's gotta put on he's gotta put on some weight. Cause like, yeah, he's gotta put on some weight more than that.
And that's kind of what when you get to guys in a bit of a later. It's not in the top of the first round. You're going to find something. Either it's going to be size or it's going to be strength or smaller score, something like that. He's 22. I mean, he'll be 23 during the season. Again, I like getting younger prospects because you're getting guys that are, if you can dominate, if you're, a 20-year-old junior and you're dominating against, especially these last couple years in college, you have guys with the playing that extra COVID year. So you get guys that are 23, 24 years old. If you're dominating against grown ass men at 20, 21 years old, you're a dude that that I want on my team.
Yeah.
And McConkey's an average age for coming out of a prospect, but you wonder how much more projection there is going to be for someone like that. But he's someone who looks like he can step in and be a starter day one in the slot. So
Yeah, 100%.
Next one on the list, Ricky Pearsall from Florida, another slot guy, fast, good route runner. He's a guy who'd be a fun gadget play. Or definitely good gadget plays. He's awesome in pre-snap notion jet sweeps. Lacks ideal strength again, like we talked about with McConkey. So he's a guy. If you're just lining him up and he's up against press coverage, any decent cornerback with strength is just going to absolutely just jam him straight to hell, and he's not even going to win off the line, much less being able to get open on his route. But if you can work ways to get him, to scheme him open, run bubble screens, things like that. Fun guy to watch.
Backfield for a little bit. Throw him in the backfield for something.
Exactly. Again, just I don't want to say trick plays, gadget plays, but just scheme ways to get open. This is stuff the Bengals should have been doing with Jamar Chase, for that matter. I mean, take your best player and find a way to get him open any which way. I mean, Jamar Chase can beat one-on-one coverage. I mean, he can beat press. He can beat zone. It doesn't matter, but make ways to make easy receptions for your playmakers. But I think someone like Ricky Pearsall would be a lot of fun in running those. Is he an ideal number 3 receiver or slot guy? Maybe not, because you want someone who's kind of physical, especially for those third down catches.
Yeah.
But would be a fun guy to have.
No, that was my thing with him. I think he's really fun. I mean, he was really productive in college, almost 1,000 yards this season in college. But the thing is, like you said, I don't know if he can actually turn into a dependable slot. I think he would be more of a, fourth receiver. Gadget comes in the backfield for plays, like gets jet sweeps, little pop passes, stuff like that.
Yeah, and again, very similar size to Lad McConkey. He's 6'1", 189. So I mean, just an inch
He
taller
added,
and a couple pounds heavier.
yeah,
So again, like will he make your team better? Yeah. Is he an ideal fit for a position of need? Maybe not.
yeah,
Last one I put on here, and I don't know where he's going to get drafted. You look at his production and his profile, and he's maybe a third rounder, early day 4. Xavier Worthy out of Texas, but he set the combine record with the fastest 40 clock, 4.21. Absolute burner and deep threat. If you can find ways to get him open, another guy who's really skinny and is going to struggle against press coverage, not going to be able to beat anyone with good hands. He's going to get absolutely swallowed if he goes up against Sauce
yeah,
Gardner or somebody like that. But a fun gadget, a fun guy to have, and I think he's probably more of a wide receiver 4 or something like that. But a guy with that speed, and you can scheme ways or get him the ball in the open
you can
field.
get him in the 4th round. I would be happy with that pick in the 4th
Yeah.
round.
Just find ways, like just scheme up, come up with a new play every week that he only needs to play 15 snaps a game, but just have fun with a gadget like that. So
Yeah, and then he was extremely productive in college. He had almost 3,000 yards in 3 seasons, like extremely productive player. The thing with him, Bengals fans, this is a second or third day pick here. This isn't a John Ross at what was he 7 or 9?
he was 10, one pick before a
10,
certain
10, my bad.
quarterback. Yeah, a certain one
Oh, I
pick before Pat
forgot.
Mahomes,
I forgot.
because the Bengals were content having a decent quarterback and
Because
didn't want to swing for the fences.
I know Bengals fans have a little bit of a scar from drafting that fast receiver. That's what I was saying. This isn't a first round pick like that.
Right. Don't just look at the numbers like, oh god, it's another John Ross. You're not using a premium draft pick on him,
Yeah.
but would be a fun pick to have. I mean, he had great productivity, athleticism. I mean, he's fits way at the top, his athleticism and everything. But
And we're 0 for 1 on these guys. The second one's got to pan out, right?
exactly. You just don't draft him at the top of the round, so you're good there. Any other wide receiver? I mean, anything else to add to the wide receiver room? I mean, ideally, you find someone that's similar to Tyler Boyd. I mean, Tyler Boyd was bigger body. He was 6'3", I think. Not a burner at all. I think he ran like a 4.6 40. And that, especially when he got older, showed, because he wasn't able, especially at the end, wasn't able to beat one-on-one coverage, and then struggled with his hands. But if you can get someone of similar profile, I mean, that's the guy. 3rd down and 7, he's going to run an 8-yard route, catch it, and convert. Like third
Yeah.
down is Tyler Boyd territory.
Yeah,
I just wonder
100%.
if they might bring him back. Is he still out there? I don't think so, but
They might, honestly. If they can bring him back like on a super cheap deal, I mean, why not?
at this point, it would be cheap. I mean, we're talking draft time, and he'll be waiting
Yeah,
until right before camp till someone starts getting injured before he gets picked up by anybody.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. If the Bengals can get him on a cheap deal, then why not? I mean, he's still got a couple years left of being decent. I'd say a decent slot.
Just catch that easy goddamn pass against Houston. My God,
Oh yeah, I remember that drop. That was annoying.
like he would have like just a absolute brain fuck drop like every year, like just a wide
Yeah,
open pass, touchdown or surefire touchdown that he drops. But this year he just struggled, and that one was costly because it was at the end of the game and turned a touchdown into a field goal, and then Texans drove down and were able to get a game winning score there at the gun. So
yeah.
all right, next spot. I have Brock Bowers here. Again, he's possibly the best tight end prospect ever, at least as a receiver or as a receiver. He's a little on the short side. I don't say short. He's 6'4". Ideal. I mean, a lot of the more ideal tight ends are 6'5", 6'6", something like that. But he's tall enough. He's got enough bulk on him. He catches the ball like a receiver, runs routes like a receiver, has speed. Has decent speed of a receiver. Just a great threat in the passing game. He's a willing blocker. I don't know if he's going to be there at 18. I would absolutely shy away room drafting a tight end. Where are you on what, something happens, Brock Bowers is there at 18. Are you pick that guy? And did you pick that guy, or do you?
It's tough because, like we just talked about, in basketball, you 100% pick that guy. No question. Like, if a guy slides to your spot that was projected to go much higher, you 100% take that guy. But I just think here, I don't want to be in that situation. Somebody take Brock Bowers. Because, like, he is, like you said, he might be the best receiving tight end prospect ever. Like, this dude was a monster in college. We've known about him since first game of his freshman year, like how damn good this guy was. And, I mean, he had a crazy successful college career at tight end. And it's just like, I don't know what you do in that spot because he's going to be the most like talented available prospect. But at the same time, we just signed Mike Gesicki, who's a solid tight end. Like, we have a solid tight end room. I just think it's kind of like jammed in that tight end room if we drafted Brock Bowers as well. Unless they just want to put Brock Bowers in the slot damn near.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, maybe you're drafting him as an oversized slot receiver. It would be, I mean, absolute matchup nightmare. He's too fast, too much athleticism for linebackers, too much size for any defensive back. You try to put a bigger safety on him, and he's just going to absolutely body them up unless they bring back someone brings back David Fulcher. And David Fulcher's in his 60s, I think. I don't think he's stepping back on an NFL field anytime soon. What would keep me from drafting him? And again, I said it before. If the Bengals go how Joe Burrow goes, if he had any interest in having a dude at tight end, Bengals would have invested in that spot. Last year was the best tight end draft in NFL history. There were so many projectable, not even projectable, guys that were surefire tight end prospects and projectable guys later in the draft, and they didn't pick one.
Yeah.
They didn't even get Zach Kuntz. They didn't get anybody like down further in the draft. They completely went over that and rolled with Herb Smith, which didn't turn out well for him. But I don't see them investing in that spot. And answer me this: who are the best tight ends in the NFL? Name me 3 tight ends.
Travis Kelce, George Kittle, maybe Sam Laporta at this point. That guy had a crazy season, seriously. Mark Andrews.
Yeah, where outside of Sam Laporta, where were those guys drafted?
Late. Like Kelce was what, a third rounder?
Third rounder.
Or second rounder. Yeah.
He was a third rounder.
Yeah. Wasn't he like the first pick in the third round or something though? I think he was like in the 60s, so probably early third round. And then George Kittle, what was George Kittle? Was he like a 7th round pick? Wasn't George Kittle 5th?
Yeah.
I knew George Kittle was something super late.
Mark Andrews, I believe, was a 4th rounder. Kittle was drafted in the 3rd round, but I can't see what actual.
No, he was a 5th
pick 63.
Yeah, for Kelce, yeah, that's
Kelce
what I
was
thought.
Pick 63, so yeah, first pick of round 3.
But Kittle was he was a 5th rounder. Kittle.
Okay. Mark Andrews, I think, was he a 3rd or 4th rounder?
Mark Andrews was a 3rd rounder.
That's it. Okay. Again, these are guys. It's not like drafting a tight end in the 1st round is bad, but it has to do with value. And ask the Falcons if they would redo drafting Kyle Pitts at 4, one spot ahead of Jamar Chase. They haven't. I mean, they haven't used him. I mean, they're not using him in a way that is getting. Like,
yeah, because I don't think it's Kyle Pitts' problem. Seriously,
right.
I don't think it's Kyle Pitts' problem.
But that's the thing. When Bengals drafted 2 tight ends in the 1st round relatively recently in Jermaine Gresham and then Tyler Eifert, and neither one were a bust. Gresham was productive, and then he was expendable when they drafted Keller.
Eifert was injuries. He was awesome.
Eifert, yeah, and Eifert was injuries. Obviously, you can't assume that someone's going to get injured, but it has to do with tight end is a position that is pretty high on the injury. And guys get injured because you're in line, like you're in with the grunts on on run plays, and you're blocking on pass plays, and just a lot more physicality.
Unless if you're going to draft a tight end early, honestly, I think sounds bad to say this because, like you said, they get hurt so much. But like, I would like to draft more of like a Travis Kelce type tight end architect, like that, where Kelce, like he's not really in the trenches as much there.
He's a large
receiver.
Receiver, yeah. I
Almost.
mean, he doesn't even line up in line. I mean, he's
Like he will every once in a while, but he kind of it's almost like he's setting like a brush screen in basketball. He's just kind of like fake screening and then running. Like he kind of like acts like he's gonna block for a second, then he just goes and runs his route.
yeah,
Like that's what he does.
exactly. It's not even a block and release. It's just
Yeah,
he'll
that's what I'm saying. It's like
yeah,
a brush block. Like he just kind of
yeah.
acts like
You're
he's
just
gonna
you're just gonna
block.
chip on the edge a little bit just to help out your tight or just to help out your tackle, and then release into the pattern. And that's now those guys obviously are very valuable, and you get someone like that. But again, these are guys that tight ends develop down the road,
Mhm.
and it's whether you're going to invest a first round pick into a spot that's going to take a few years to develop, or get somebody with physical attributes in third round, fourth round, fifth round that has decent size and speed. Maybe he can block really well, but didn't play in a pass happy offense. This is kind of what happened to Drew Sample. Why the Bengals drafted him. Not that they should have drafted him in the second round, but it made sense why they drafted him. He had the exact same profile coming out of Washington than the George Kittle.
George Kittle, yeah,
Absolute exact same profile. Came from a really run heavy offense in Washington, but had good hands, tested really well, had good size and speed. We know how great of a blocker Drew Sample is. They overdrafted him, but if Drew Sample was a fourth round pick and had the career he's had, good pick.
yeah,
So that's why I don't. I'll say I'm against drafting a tight end high, but I think it's better to get a guy with attributes, go get someone in the second or third rounds, and um, and guys that we'll talk about next. Pull back up here, like Jatavian Sanders, Eric All, Cage Stover, Ben Sinnott, I'm not sure, out of Kansas State. Out of those four guys that I have on there, I think Sanders, Stover, and Sinnott are going to be maybe day two picks, probably maybe third rounders. I would almost wait for Eric All. I've seen him going in like the fourth and fifth round. One thing to note, Iowa tight ends do pretty well in the NFL. George Kittle, Tanner Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Sam Laporta. Like, get all of the Iowa offensive linemen, get Iowa tight ends, and you're going to have a quality football player.
yeah.
He has the physical attributes that you look for.
Did you add Fant in there?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
he and Hawkinson came out of the same class.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're both first rounders, or at least early picks, the same year, which is pretty crazy. Sorry, I'm losing my notes here.
The only difference here is he was at Michigan most of his career.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
not a full bred Iowa program tight end.
Which means he knows how a functioning offense works. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I I actually kind of like your idea. Just wait till day 3 and draft the Iowa tight end. There's a chance he becomes a superstar.
Exactly. At the very least, he's going to block. I mean,
Oh, hell yeah.
they run the ball a lot, so he's going to be a solid blocker.
Yeah, every game is 10-7
Yeah,
at
exactly.
Iowa.
Punt to win. But yeah, the last four guys, they all have similar athletic profiles. They're kind of also. There's no athletic freak like there was last year with was it Zach Kuntz, the guy from Old Dominion? He was Penn State, transferred to Old Dominion. He was like 6'7". These guys are all 6'4", 6'5", about 240 pounds. Like even Bowers himself. Slightly varying strengths and weaknesses, but there's not a big difference between Sanders and who might go in second round or third round, and Eric All, who's again I've seen going in fourth, fifth round. So just wait until day 3 and pick up some of the physical attributes and beef up your interior, beef up your offensive and defensive lines in the short term. So, any other notes on any of these guys or anybody I'm missing, or any thoughts on the tight end room?
Because like you said, a lot of these guys literally have like very similar profiles, very similar attributes and stuff they're good at. So I don't think you really missed anything there.
Yeah. Running back, again, they're going to take a running back. It's going to be day 3. These are just like I don't have a lot to say on a lot of these guys. Running backs are hard to project. Guys come out of nowhere. You get undrafted free agents that have great. Pacheco was a 7th rounder. Guys that I liked last year that either were undrafted or went really late. Tyjae Spears went to Houston. I'm sorry, Tennessee. Tennessee out of Tulane. Loved that guy. Keaton Mitchell, I think he was undrafted. out of East Carolina. Saw him absolutely run over my Bearcats. Bearcats won, but like guy was a tiny guy, but ran all over the field. They
Yeah.
picked him up undrafted free agent, and it's just absolute fantastic. So it's I'm just throwing out names out here. I did not list, and I can't pronounce the guy's name. He's out of Louisville, Garendo. I
Oh,
believe
yeah. I know
Isaac
who you're talking
Garendo.
about. You're talking about Louisville's running back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Isaac Guerrendo. Again, I pronunciation guides would be my key, or would be very helpful to me. That's the guy I'd like to see. He's got a good size speed package, but Braylon Allen would be a fun guy because of his size. He's a guy that when he was a 17-year-old freshman looked like an NFL running back. He was 6'1", 240, and just running over 23-year-old seniors, fifth-year seniors. He struggled. He's basically the same player as a junior as he was as a freshman, but good big bodied back to bring in, just kind of wear down teams in the fourth quarter. I don't know how he'd be in special teams, which is what the Bengals would be looking at
Yeah.
for that draft pick. But any
Uh,
any running backs, I mean, I know
Frank
Tim
Gore
Daniel would be
Jr. is
happy.
another guy. Frank Gore
Is that
Jr. is another guy.
yeah
Frank
yeah
Gore Jr. Honestly, like if we're gonna draft one later, I would just draft Blake Corum. Honestly, like he had a stellar career, and like
absolutely
you know what
productive.
I mean. Like he was so productive that like he could pan out for a late round pick. I think Blake Corum's um worth that pick in my opinion.
Our buddy Tim Daniel would be super happy if they get Audric Estime from Notre Dame. He's a fit. Again, like who knows who's a fit? I mean, guys that look like they're absolute generational talents don't pan out. Guys that look like they're just roster fodder, like turn into something. You look at the Denver Broncos of the late '90s, early 2000s after Terrell Davis left. Every year they have someone who run for 1,000 yards. Some of these guys were undrafted,
Yeah,
so it's silly to throw out day three guys that you know, I've got guys that I like, but
because your
absolute
line
dog
depends
shit.
so much on your production.
Yeah,
Like yeah, because like young Joe Mixon, like those first few years, probably would have put up much better numbers in total if he had a line. Like if you threw him behind the Cowboys O line Zeke was running behind, I bet you
yeah,
Mixon would have put up similar numbers.
yeah.
So
No,
that
and
it's
and
just there's so many factors for running backs that's just hard to predict them. And like I just feel like the only time you really need to draft a running back high, like, is like when it's just I wouldn't draft him with the second pick like they did, but like when it's like a Saquon, like you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like
well,
that's worth a late first rounder, something like that, because like he's
Bijan
just that.
Robinson going where he went was
Yeah.
still silly to me. And then they drafted,
But if you could get somebody like that in the late first round,
yeah,
like if that's a good pick, in my opinion, still. And it seems like running backs value is going up a little bit again because they all got paid. Joe
yeah. A lot
Mixon
of them
got
got paid,
absolutely
crazy.
paid.
I can't believe I
Mixon got 10 million a year, right? Like about 10 million, 9.
I I think it was 9. I think it was like 3 for 27. I think is about what. And I don't know. He's not going to see all that, but someone needs to explain that to me. Like you already had him. You didn't need this. Was he wasn't a free agent? You didn't have to throw something in to sweeten the deal. Like he's an older running back with a lot of wear on the tires. Now he's going to a team where he's got a better. I think he's better set up. Like their
Because
scheme is better.
they run everything under center. That gives like if Mixon has a head start to get going, he'll definitely be a lot better because that's his problem. Like he has
Yeah,
to he's still a monster once he's in the open field. Like once he's loose,
yeah,
but it's just getting loose has been the problem for him.
right. And it's so I mean he's in a better situation. I like the Bengals running back room better with Zach Moss, and I don't want to say as the lead back, who knows who the lead back's going to be, but with Zach Moss and Chase Brown over just Joe Mixon. But I mean,
Yeah.
Mixon's still probably going to have a solid season, assuming health, which you can never do. But it,
I'm a, yeah, I'm gonna just miss Mixon because I was like my favorite player like 3 or 4 years ago. Like that was like my favorite guy on the team, and he was on the like Andy Dalton era squad. Him and Boyd were the last remaining guys. But like in terms of like football, it was time to move
you still have Sam Hubbard,
on. Sam Hubbard.
local Sam, Moeller Sam. All right, the last spot that we're really going to highlight right now is interior offensive line. Again, we went into it earlier. Karras is a free agent. Kappa is free agent after next year, and Cordell Volson is meh. So I don't have anything else. He's meh. He
Make that on a
finishes
shirt. Cordell Volson is meh.
That's an idea. I might have to come up with a T-shirt. I don't think that'll go over real well. I couldn't wear it anywhere, but um,
Wilson is mad.
like he finished the year really strong, which good for him. But again, he was a 25-year-old second year player and still finished in the back half of pretty much every offensive line rankings. It's like
Yeah.
I just don't know what you can expect from this guy.
Yeah, he's gonna be 26 entering his third season.
Exactly, and that's
I yeah, I don't understand the whole drafting 24-year-old prospects really outside of like quarterbacks. Because quarterbacks, you have so much time. You know what I mean? Like you have so much time to develop. Like Will Levis was 24. I don't think it's that big a deal with quarterbacks, but like those positions are in the trenches. 24 years old is just that's older to draft a guy.
absolutely. Um, it's one thing if you're drafting for depth, but they drafted him knowing that he was
Yeah, that's
uh,
what I'm saying. Like a high
yeah,
pick is what I'm saying.
yeah, and he was around 4 pick, but they drafted him knowing that he was going to be stepping into a competition for that spot.
Yeah.
And again, they were hoping that Jack Carmen would take that spot, which absolutely did not happen. But they knew that they knew that going in, they knew that possibility. So I mean, his pass blocking grade was for the year was 46.7, which is actually worse than the year before. That's just not good, man.
Yeah.
You need better than that from a very pass heavy offense. Like no. So I mean, he just if he's your first guy off the bench, cool. If you have him instead of Cordy Ford, awesome. But they need to improve that spot. Um, just listed a couple names: Zach Powers Jackson, Zach Frazier. They're both centers. I wouldn't be averse to them picking them. I think that might be a little early for them, but I think they'll be picked in the first round, maybe last handful of picks. Again, I mean that those are spots. Everyone loves Ted Karras, and the guy's a fantastic guy, but he also has guard versatility. So nothing wrong with drafting, you know, someone to replace Karras at center and either moving him out of the spot this year or moving to the guard or whatever. I mean, just more talent on the offensive line. I wouldn't be averse to that. I don't see it happening, but I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
other name I threw up on here, Christian Haynes. Again, there are 50 names for guards. And they'll pick somebody in the middle rounds that I'll have never heard of because I'm not Dane Brugler with the beast that he puts out every year. But Christian Haynes out of UConn, good fit and value in probably in the third round. Bengals have 2 third-round picks. I don't think they're going to have both of them by the time they pick around. I think they're going to trade one of those to move up in the second, is my guess. But I think he's a good scheme fit. He's very good size for what the Bengals have. Again, he's somewhere around mid, 6'5", 6'6", somewhere in that area.
Who, Haynes?
Yeah,
No, he's only 6'2".
6'2".
Look at
Oh
his
wow, I
profile
lied.
right now.
There's
Yeah.
the other there's another Christian I think that I got him mixed up with. There you go. Again, I've done 2 weeks of prep on these guys. You think I'd have better handle on their names and everything?
No, these names are impossible.
I know.
Not these guys, but those tackles. Dear God. I love how for those of you out there, he literally put in our little spreadsheet or little doc for this episode. He had the pronunciation written right next to it, like with the
Copy and
hyphens
pasted
and
from the
everything.
media guides. Yeah, copy and pasted from the media guides, and I'm still stumbling over their damn names. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Christian Haynes would be a good off of what supposedly his strengths and weaknesses are. Supposedly would be a good fit. Again, coming out of UConn, which isn't exactly a football powerhouse.
Are they FCS?
No, they're still
football?
they're independent.
I
They
was
were
like, yeah,
in.
that's what I was wondering. What conference are they in? Is what I was confused about.
They were in the American with UC and USF, UCF, all those guys.
Yeah.
They joined the Big East basketball and became independent in football. So, but again, they're going to pick somebody. I wouldn't be averse to them picking somebody high. I don't think it's going to happen because what their needs are going to be, especially on the other side of the ball. We'll get into next week, but wouldn't be hurt if they were to pick someone with a pretty premium draft pick for their spots. Just again, upgrades are good. I mean, Bengals look fine at those spots going into 2024, but you want to be better than fine. You want to be strong at these positions. So
yeah, 100%. You want to put your best foot forward and everything like that. And like we're talking about, these are middle round pick talks we're talking about with the interior lineman.
Yeah, we're not talking about guys going in the first round or anything like that.
Just depth.
Yeah, exactly. Someone to
upgrades.
possibly challenge for a spot.
Yeah, depth
Christian
at
Mahogany.
worst, and yeah, because when you're drafting like stuff like guards and stuff in like the middle rounds, it's like depth at worst, and if they become a starter, that's even better. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
at worst, be a 6th, 7th offensive lineman for the team.
Christian Mahogany was the other Christian that I was thinking about at Boston College. He's a little bit bigger.
Okay.
He's like 6'3", 6'4", 320. So I knew there were a couple Christians, and I got their sizes mixed up. But this is the guy's number 2 on PFF's big board rank, which is end of day 2, early day 3 pick. So, and again, I think that's probably not a bad spot for them to probably start actually looking at that position. So, any other thoughts about either interior offensive line, running back, tight end, any other spots at all?
Kind of torn on what I want them to actually do with this pick. What about you?
Bengals have
They have options.
Yeah,
Like
they're fascinating.
There's no clear cut thing this year, like to draft.
I think they did a really good job in free agency to make sure that they don't need to get a day 1 starter at this spot. If they pick somebody at a spot like right tackle is a spot of future need, and guy wins the job in training camp, awesome.
Yeah.
But they don't need to get someone to step in day 1 and be that dude. They're not getting Jamar Chase to be day 1 starter, wide receiver, or Joe Burrow to be starting quarterback. They don't even need a starting cornerback out of the draft. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I still can't believe I wanted to draft Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase, but that's another day. I wanted that to happen when it happened.
I've always been on Chase over Sewell. I absolutely understood. I mean, there was the meme going around forever. They still bring that out from time to time. Anytime Burrow gets hurt or takes a big hit, they recycle that the meme. All you have to do is look at the first 2 years. They made Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game. I think they made the smart move on that. So it was a
100%.
great offensive tackle.
My thought process at the time was just, we got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd.
Penei Sewell's made a couple athletic grabs. I mean, they've had him tackle.
Penei Sewell's been awesome. I was right. He was awesome, but it's just Jamar Chase is a different kind of playmaker.
Yeah, it's funny. He went to the Lions, and the Lions are the Bengals a year or 2 later. How they're developing. So, and then that's my NFC team that's fun to watch.
Oh, they're so fun to watch.
It'd be awesome to see them finally make a Super Bowl to lose to the Bengals. I'd be cool with that.
But I was gonna add, like we were talking about, like if Brian Thomas is available at 18, I honestly would want to draft him, to be honest with you, because we are gonna need a 3 receiver. And he could definitely slide into the 2 receiver eventually if we get rid of Higgins, and he's similar size to Higgins, everything like that. Yeah. And then you could just move Chase, have Chase in the slot a lot. Chase likes to operate in the slot some, so you could throw Chase in the slot some.
I would use him in the slot so much more than they do. Again, they got better last year in moving him around the formation. They lined him up in the backfield, orbit.
Yeah, they were more creative with their offense last year. They definitely were.
And I think using him as a chess piece, obviously he's out there every down. It's not like he's a gadget player who's just coming in on passing downs. Chase is out there, and unless he's caught 3 straight and he needs a blow, he's going to be out there every snap. But
yeah,
I would be completely happy with him primarily being their slot receiver when they run 11 formation. I think they're going to run less 11 formation this year because I think with Gesicki, and I think they're going to run more 2 tight end looks. Not that Gesicki can block, not that they ever asked Tanner Hudson to block, but I can see one of those guys and Drew Sample in on the same time and just having 2 wideouts just to give yourself different looks, just so you're not so predictable. As it is, if you run Gesicki out there, you're throwing the ball. If you run Tanner Hudson 100%. Out there, you're throwing the ball. Those guys aren't out there to run block. And if you have Drew Sample, you're probably running the ball, or you don't really have to account for him as a receiver unless it's an outlet valve, third down, check down, or something over the middle, block and release. But it'd be fun to see them be more. They got more creative last year when Burrow got healthy. We're left for them to continue to be creative, and I think they will be with the new having Dan Pitcher as the offensive coordinator. Just a different set of eyes than obviously he was in the room the whole time, but I think just an evolution is needed, and be fun to see what they do. So
I'm with you there.
outside of that, any final thoughts about life, about other sports, about NBA playoffs? What do you who do you
Oh,
like to finish up the
all right,
play-in round?
all right.
I'll give you
How
the
the
floor.
play-in's gonna finish out?
Yeah.
All right, I think the Kings will beat the Pelicans in that playing game. The Kings are the favorites in that one by 1.5. Thing with that is the reason I think the Kings are gonna win is just there's no Zion. So if the Pelicans win, Brandon Ingram's gonna have to play insane, and he's looked horrible since he came back from injury. So I'm gonna take the Kings there. And then Bulls Heat game, Jimmy Butler's out for multiple several weeks. So give me the Bulls. Honestly, DeMar DeRozan is good as hell. So I think he on his own and Kobe White can win that game for the Bulls. Even though the Heat are still going to be favored, I believe. I haven't looked on FanDuel, but they'll still probably be favored with Bam and Tyler Hero playing. But the Heat might honestly just chalk it in, and I don't even think they want to make the playoffs at this point. Like with Tyler here or with Jimmy Butler out for the year
At
or
this point,
out for weeks.
just get the higher draft pick.
Yeah, because they're not going to win. Like the Bulls want to make the playoffs. They're desperate to make the playoffs because Jerry Reinsdorf's like the worst owner in basketball, and he just like we got
Yeah.
the 8 seed. Like he'll flex the 8 seed. Like, and they just want to be mediocre. I know it drives Tim and Sean insane. But yeah, they just want to be
Tim
mediocre.
loses his fucking mind over the Bulls, man. They
He's
they
gonna be hyped
just
tomorrow when they
they're a
win.
rudderless. Like they really haven't. Again,
They
Michael
were the
Jordan
one
is the
seed with
extent.
Derrick Rose. They were the one
Yeah,
seed with Derrick Rose. Then he tore his ACL. They were the one seed 2 straight years with Derrick Rose.
yeah.
Tore his ACL, and it was just over after that.
But outside of Derrick Rose and Jordan, they haven't been a good franchise
No,
like ever. Like
they
yeah, I mean
had
they made the playoffs here and there. They had they had Reggie Theus and they had
the
uh,
Jimmy Butler era
right, like
with
they've had guys, but they haven't been able to sustain anything out pretty much outside of Jordan. And Derrick Rose was just never able to really stay on the court enough to,
and
to
then
do anything.
they had that stretch 2 years ago where they were the 1 seed, and then Lonzo Ball tore his whatever in his knee, and he still hasn't played 2.5 years later,
Jeez.
which is insane. But
Yeah,
they had that stretch where they're the 1 seed the first half of that season, and it looked like, oh my god, this Bulls team's incredible. But
yeah,
shout out to DeMar DeRozan, man. That man's almost in his mid-30s, and he's still an absolute dog. And he's out
yeah,
there leading a bunch of young guys who aren't that good. And he could be complaining and stuff like that. He just goes out there and plays every night hard.
yeah. I will always pull for the Kings. Just used to be in Cincinnati. Granted, they're absolute nomadic franchise. I mean, we're the Rochester Royals, Cincinnati Royals, Kansas City / Omaha,
They
Kansas
are
City
our team
Milwaukee's, whatever.
technically. I forgot about
Right,
that.
right, exactly. And then now to Sacramento. So technically, they're kind of the hometown team. Question
Yeah,
mark?
technically. I like them because I'm a Kentucky fan, so I like De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk.
See, they were my team. I've never been a Lakers fan. Um, during the Shaq and Kobe years, they can never get the Kings can never get over that hump. But they were so fun with Divac, Chris Webber,
Um,
White
game
Chocolate,
game 7
Asia.
of that. Yeah, game 7 of that, was it the 0-1 or 0-2 series was rigged.
Yeah, yeah.
I've watched so
I,
many videos on that, like the
I,
conspiracy
I'm
theories about that game.
I'm not going to dispute that possibility, but I mean with Stojakovic and Turkoglu, like they were a fun team. Like
Mike Bibby.
they got screwed out of a ring.
Yeah, Mike Bibby was on that team.
Yeah, I mean they were a team ahead. I mean they were about 20 years too early. The way they played ball, I mean they were a very like modern NBA team, almost positionless. I mean Vlade Divac handled the ball at the 5 better than a lot of two guards did back in the day.
Yeah, because that was the dead ball era of the NBA where the games were all in the 80s
It was
and stuff like
awful to
that.
watch. It was Allen
I,
Iverson taking 50 shots, getting the
I'm
shit
not.
kicked out of him every game.
I kind of. Sometimes I miss it because like last night the 76ers and Heat played and it was old school. Like it ended up being 105 to 104, but that was because there was like 15, 16 points scored by each team in the last 2 minutes. You know what I mean?
I
Like they were
watched.
just. But like it was a drag them out like 48 to 36 at halftime, and I was like, I do kind of miss this because this was like I grew up on like those low scoring games, and like
Yeah,
because it's like a happy medium. I'd like them to score like 110 a game, like for each team, like on average, not 125.
Yeah, sometimes you look at the score, like I'll look at the box scores and it'll be like 135 to 118. I'm like, just put your hands up. Just
The game yesterday, the Bulls game was like 133 to 116. I want to say the Bulls won.
131 to 116.
Okay, 131.
That's yeah. That's yeah. That's again. I like watching offense. I like watching fluid, smooth offense. I like watching ball movement. I like watching jump shooters. I don't like seeing the ball just pounded into the paint and then you're just bulldozing the guy, till you're under the basket and throw up something. That's boring to be watching. Um, oh my God, Jeff Van Gundy hugging Alonzo Mourning's leg after the brawl those two teams had. Like that was. I was hoping that both teams would just get completely thrown out of the league because those games were fucking terrible. They were like neither team, first team to hit 85 won.
Nah,
Those
Pistons teams were awful to watch growing
Ben Wallace,
up.
yeah.
I was
they won a title. Is crazy.
Yeah, they did, and they almost won 2.
Yeah,
they took the Spurs to 7 games.
Yeah,
and another one. They almost won 2
after
of them.
drafting Darko Milicic instead of Carmelo Anthony or
Literally.
Bosh
or Wade.
Or Wade, right?
Like
you have
literally
20 picks to get that right, and you pick the one guy that totally
and
in that first round.
That draft class was also just stacked. Even like could have traded down and gotten Kyle Korver, Mo Williams, like all these like players that were both those players were all stars. Like seriously,
right.
David West was in that draft. There were so many good players.
Right, David West was in that draft.
Yeah,
not
no,
a
that
Xavier
draft
guy,
was
but
stacked.
not a Xavier guy, but I liked David West.
Like you said, that's my gripe with college basketball. Honestly, that's why like college basketball I struggle to watch sometimes. Like they just miss open shots. like I'm not talking about March Madness. There's nothing like March Madness.
Did you watch?
But I'm talking about
you watched a lot of Bearcats this year.
I did watch a decent bit.
That was that's the Bearcats offense. A lot of just.
But you know what I'm talking about? I get pissed off watching people like miss open. Like it's just like I'd just rather watch the NBA when they just like when they're missing wide open looks. And then people say, "Well, the NBA they don't play defense." All I say that is they just don't miss. If you give them any space, they're just better.
They're better players.
They're like way better. Like people don't understand that. Like when people say UConn would beat the Pistons, you're out of your mind. Yeah. The Pistons would destroy them.
The Pistons are filled with the best players from their respective college basketball teams.
Yeah, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Cade Cunningham were all top 10 picks.
Right.
Cade Cunningham was the number 1 pick.
Right. Like, no, that's you can try to make that argument, but no, that's don't be dumb.
100%. The spread would be like 30.5 or something. Like the Pistons would be heavily favored.
And I'd still take them given 30.5.
Yeah.
Way off track here. Speaking of which, hey, NBA Friday show was dropped early this week. It is in your feeds already. The Red show will be in Friday AM. This is Thursday, right? We'll go back to the top of the show. It is Thursday. I'll be dropping this afternoon. Late Night Reds every Sunday, 9 p.m. with Tim Daniel and Ben Brown. Red Leg Roundtable with Seth Shaner. Haven't checked who his latest guest is. He's had a lot of awesome guests. Let's see, who's the last one here that he
Kent Merker.
Kent Merker, that's right. Hilarious guy, Kent Merker. Check him out. Any questions, team@riverfrontcincy.com. Parker, this has been fun. We will see you all next week. Everyone, goodbye.
See you guys.